Marcel Reed is going to be an elite quarterback next year. I'm going to tell you why on today's episode of Locked On Aggies.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the running back room and who's going to be the guy. I think my answer might surprise some people that have been listening to the show for a long time, and I'll explain why at the tail end of the show today. I'm going to talk a little bit about Donovan Green hitting the portal and talk about what this means. Where does that room go from there? But we're going to kick the show off with something that I've been dying to talk about, and it's my case for why I believe Marcel Reed is going to be an elite quarterback next year for Texas A&M. So let's start with this question. I don't understand, when you do what I do for a living, you see a lot of folks' opinions and comments, and it helps me kind of formulate topics and conversations. And I've seen so many people, and it's not, a lot of people assume, it's probably just Texas fans or fans of other fan bases. I've seen a lot of A&M fans that aren't a big believer in Marcel Reed. And what frustrates me is this. When you look at Marcel Reed and the way he plays the game of football and he plays the quarterback position, with the proper development as a passer, there is absolutely a route to him being an elite quarterback next year for Texas A&M. People forget he's a young guy. This was really the beginning of his career. Last year, he played in the bowl game against Oklahoma State. Again, he was, kind of launched into action because of the injury to Jalen Henderson. Now, this year, he plays in a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games, including the bowl game. It was just kind of he played a few snaps against Missouri, so you don't really count that. A few snaps against McNeese, I wouldn't fully count that. So the games he was really the guy. Florida, Bowling Green State, Arkansas, LSU, and that was really the second half. South Carolina, New Mexico, Auburn, Texas, USC. So he has about 10 games under his belt. And he, in those 10 games, had a completion percentage of 61.3. He had 1,864 yards. He threw for 15 touchdowns. He only threw 6 interceptions. A couple of them questionable. No question. A couple of them are questionable. But he also accounted for 7 touchdowns on the ground and 547 rushing yards. So, he went for about nearly 2,500 yards in those games. When watching Marcel Reed play the game, he has that upside of players we've seen be successful in college football of late. Jaden Daniels is, I think, a great example because, at Arizona State, we got to remember this about Jaden Daniels. Let's see if I can pull up his numbers from college. Can you even do that anymore? You can. At Arizona State, man, ESPN, good for you. At Arizona State, his numbers were okay. They were fine. Completion percentage in 2020, didn't play a lot. See, was it 2021 you started to play a lot? The numbers were fine. The numbers were okay, but it wasn't like he was this elite quarterback. He was a solid quarterback, and that's my point. I think that I'd say right now, Jaden Daniels, what he was at Arizona State's far ahead of what Marcel Reed is currently. But my point is, he wasn't this elite quarterback at Arizona State. He became a great quarterback at LSU. And I think people forget that. And so that people yelling at me, I'm not saying he was bad. I'm saying he was fine. He was okay. He was good. He wasn't elite. He became elite. He became a Heisman winner. So to those who say Marcel Reed, I just don't think it's reality. Looking at the way he plays the game, the upside's there. So I just took a look more. I paused and and took a look more at Jaden Daniels' stats. And once again, I just wanted to make sure, because I remember he was there for multiple years. I wanted to double check myself. And yeah, I mean, the numbers were fine. They were solid, but it's not like they jump off the screen. It's like, this guy's elite. Nothing frustrates me more. Absolutely nothing frustrates me more than when people don't believe a player can get better over a career. That is my biggest pet peeve of sports fans. I mean, Marcel Reed, now knowing he is the guy. He was not the guy heading into this season. Obviously, he was getting reps and stuff, but he wasn't the guy. Marcel Reed is now the guy for the Aggies. And this offseason, they're going to treat him as he is the guy. He's going to get all these reps if he develops as a passer. And when you play the way he does, where you run a lot, I'm not asking him to be an elite passer. If he's just a good passer on top of what he can do with his legs, Marcel Reed can lead Texas A&M to a dominant season where he puts up incredible numbers because his legs open up the passing game and his ability to pass it will help in the running game. It's just going to work itself out. Watching the way he played this year, kind of being launched into action, this kid is gritty. This kid plays football the right way. I am all in on Marcel Reed being successful this season. And what I really want to hear for those of you, and I want to hear, I'm not 100% saying you're wrong. I'm telling you why I think he's going to be good. Let me know in the YouTube comments, and don't just say, oh, he sucks, or he's not going to be any good. Let me know why Marcel Reed you don't think is going to have a good career at Texas A&M. I want a reason. And if there's a valid reason, I'll say, hey, I agree with this, disagree with this. I look at this, and, I think Jaden Daniels, once again, is a solid comparison when it comes to knowing he's a great runner, and he was turned into a pretty darn good passer. He won a Heisman at LSU, and that's the kind of upside Marcel Reed possesses with his legs. And, I think it's a good comparison. Now look what Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels just cost me, Jaden Daniels, I love you and love watching you play, but you did cost me a fantasy championship by kicking my butt, and I really don't appreciate that. But, and that's, of course, Jaden Daniels, big fan of Locked On Aggies. But, I just don't get why people don't believe that Marcel Reed can take that step to the next level. There's no question to me that he can. I know that he's got that talent in him. I know that he has that ability in him and that upside. And now we've talked about it. The most important, when I say most important, I mean the number one most important thing for Texas A&M this offseason. More important than the portal, more important than high school recruiting, more important than anything. The most important thing this offseason for Texas A&M is developing Marcel Reed as a passer. If he can take that next step, and I mean, there's people a lot smarter than I in this football game. I mean, in knowledge-wise in this game of football, which doesn't take a ton, but we have Division I head coaches getting ready to take on Texas A&M, talking about how Marcel Reed's one of the best young quarterbacks in college football. We heard Lincoln Riley say it. We've heard a lot of positives about Marcel Reed. People believe in him. He's a darn good quarterback. So he's got to develop. I'm not saying if he went out tomorrow that I'm believing this. I think that we want to hear off-season chatter that he is continuing to get better and better and better and better. And if he does that, if he takes the step in the right direction this offseason, Coach Colin Klein is able to help continue to develop him as a passer, the sky's the limit. If he takes the step to become an elite passer, Marcel Reed will be one of the best quarterbacks in college football next year. And so I'd love to hear those disagree with that statement. Why? With what he can do with his legs. And the last thing, he's going to have elite weapons now. He's got great running backs. He's going to have incredible receivers. He's going to have a pretty darn good offensive line. He's got the weaponry around him. Now, last year, his receivers weren't all that good. He has dominant wide receivers now, proven elite college receivers, and guys like KC Concepcion, Craver, Hudson's a high upside guy. You still got Noah Thomas around. You got Bussy. You got Miles coming in. You've got darn good players on this roster at the wide receiver position now, which is really going to help Marcel Reed take that step to the next level. I am a full-on believer in the upside of Marcel Reed now. I think that he is going to be just an absolute force for the Aggies next season. I'm bought in. I'm a believer. So I am all kinds of fired up about what he's going to do next season. And I think y'all need to get behind him too. Because I think that he's just, the kid's gritty, man. Just the way he plays football, the way you throw him in against LSU and he comes back and wins a darn game against a good team like that. That takes guts. And Marcel Reed has it. I believe Marcel Reed is going to be a great quarterback for the Aggies for a long time, without any doubt in my mind. We're going to talk about the tight end room. The Aggies lost a tight end to the portal, and we're going to talk a little bit about what does this mean and what's this room going to look like next season. We'll have that conversation going up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I'll tell you about our friends over at Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings to bring everything together in one place. Whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and have saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. I'll tell you this, what I love about Rocket Money, when we found out they were going to be a part of the show, I was like, oh, I don't think I have any subscriptions that I'm paying for, right? I don't know. And then I did. Like I told y'all, every time I talk about Rocket Money, I did have some I was paying for. It's great. It helped me, a young person trying to build my future, finances. It helped me out a ton. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedoncollege today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. So yesterday we found out two things about the tight end room. First, which I absolutely hate to see, Donovan Green decided to hit the transfer portal. This one hurts. I really, really liked the upside possessed by Donovan Green. That ACL injury that he sustained right before the season started last season, not this year, but the year before, I just don't think he came back the same from it. We saw him on the field here and there this year, not much, anything sustained. So he has put his name in the portal. I'll tell you what, a darn good young man Donovan Green is. Best of luck to him in his future when it comes to wherever he's going to end up. I believe in him, and I believe in the upside and the future that he has at the tight end position. So I'm a believer in what he's going to be able to go do. I just don't think he ever really got back healthy from the injury. And I think that it hurt him this year because I fully believe that he was going to be a really good player for the Aggies this year. And it just seems like he never came back healthy fully from that injury. So, where he goes from here is going to be really interesting. I am kind of curious to see what he's going to end up doing. So it's going to be interesting what happens with him in his future, but I think he's going to find a positive landing spot and hopefully turn that career around because, once again, I know the upside's there. On top of that, we had more tight end news. Tre Watson declared for the NFL draft. So, obviously, Watson's out, Green's out. You've already lost Platt in the portal. You brought in 2 players so far in the transfer portal at the tight end position. you brought in Micah Riley from Auburn, a kid who, I mean, I think that he's similar to a Jaden Platt type of player when it comes to the upside. He's a guy we didn't see a ton on the field when he was at Auburn. But I think Micah Riley, 6'5", 266, I think that he is capable of coming in and playing a role for this team. Then you also bring in Nate Borakercher from Nebraska, a kid that was primarily a blocking tight end at Nebraska. I think that he is going to be positive for this offense when it comes to his blocking, but you still need some guys to go and pass the rock or catch the passes from Marcel Reed. And I think that guy is going to be, and to me, that's Theo Mellon Orstrom. I mean, I think that he had the flashes this season, and knowing that, Platt's gone, Watson's gone, Donovan Green's gone. I still don't think the question is who's going to be the pass catcher, or has Colin Klein kind of changed his opinion to where he's not really as worried, kind of about feeding tight ends anymore? Because for a while, we talked about his leading receiver 2 years ago at Kansas State was a tight end. I expected him to use the tight end position more this year. I don't think he had what he wanted on roster. That's the reality. So I have a feeling that Colin Klein they've got 10 guys in the portal right now. Knowing that 2 of those 10 are tight ends tell me that it was an early on issue that they wanted to address in the transfer portal. So maybe it's Micah Riley. I think he's the guy that Auburn believed had pass catching upside. So I'm anxious to see, is it him? Because I don't think it's Borakercher from Nebraska. I think that he's more of a blocker. That's what it said. Over a handful of years, he really didn't have all that many catches. He's there to block. So it's going to be really kind of fun to pay attention to who's going to be the guy. But I think he had flashes this year where he was really darn good, and I think he's got that upside. So, but my last question about this is, with the elite receivers you now have, is Colin Klein going to feed these receivers, or is he going to feed the tight end? Is he going to feed these tight ends, or is he going to just throw the ball to the receivers and have them block? Heading into next season, I don't expect Colin Klein to throw to the tight end position as much as we expected heading into this year, but I still expect the position to be utilized, because knowing you have a running quarterback and a great set of running backs and you have some great receivers, those tight ends are not going to be top of the what the team's paying attention to. So I'm really excited to see what this room kind of looks like next year, who's going to be the pass catcher. And this is all stuff we'll figure out early into the off season. I want to talk a little bit about which running back is going to be the running back 1 for the Aggies next year. Is it a 1A, 1B? Is it a 1 and 2? We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Looking at this running back room, if y'all remember my take heading into this year, there was a lot of people excited about what was going to happen with Ruben Owens. And then he, of course, has the injury heading into the season, and we don't see him until the Texas game and the bowl game against USC. Against USC, he looked okay. He looked fine. It's once again, you see the flashes there. He wasn't back fully, for sure in football shape. He wasn't fully ready to go. There's more for him to do to get ready for next season. But I'll tell you this, maybe this isn't a hot take. Maybe y'all fully agree with me. I think there's a good chance of that, but I am all in. I don't think it's going to be a 1A, 1B. I think it's going to be a 1 and 2, with Le'Veon Moss being your 1 and Ruben Owens being your 2. Le'Veon Moss was one of the best running backs in the entire SEC this season. Went down with the injury. He was going to easily get to 1,000 yards. He went down against South Carolina in the beginning of the game. He would have had a handful more games to get over 1,000 yards. He was going to have a really special year. And him going out talk about losing, you're losing against Auburn and South Carolina and Texas. Not saying Le'Veon Moss. I mean, I think there's a chance that you maybe beat Auburn and things look a little different. So this was a really big loss for the Aggies. And last season when Moss went down, and I think that played a big role in the kind of the skid down the end of the year. So heading into next season, there's no question to me that I think Le'Veon Moss is going to be the guy. And Ruben Owens getting a lot of carries. We saw this year. I mean, heck, even E.J. Smith was getting some carries each game. You're going to see a lot of carries go to Moss and a lot of carries go to Ruben Owens. But I just can't see a world where we don't find a lack of balance between these two players. So I think we're going to see a lot of Le'Veon Moss. I think we're going to see a good amount of Ruben Owens. But I think what I'm saying is I think Le'Veon Moss is going to take over as the number one guy, even with a healthy 5-star Ruben Owens out there on the field. Now, having both of them, I think, is going to elevate this team to the next level, and I'm very, very excited about that. But that kind of is my take on this running back room for next season. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Wanted to say a quick thanks to everybody. I mean, of course, this is the 31st. That means tomorrow is the start of the new year. It's been a really successful year for us here at Locked On Aggies. The show's grown. We've gained a lot of subscribers. And I just want to say I really appreciate y'all being here every single day and liking the show and leaving likes and being subscribers and listening on the podcast offers. Wherever y'all listen, it really means a lot to me and it helps me out a lot. So I want to say thank y'all from the bottom of my heart. I really, really, really appreciate y'all and everything you do to help me out by watching this show. So once again, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, leave a like, leave a 5-star review on any podcast platform you listen to. All that show helps me out and helps the show out a ton. Hope everyone has a really, really good time tonight celebrating the new year. Everyone be safe. Everyone have a good time. Everybody be responsible. We'll try our best there, but really appreciate it that y'all being here. Really means the world to me. So thanks for another wonderful year here at Locked On Aggies, and here's to many, many more. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day, has a great rest of their year. I'm going to say it. Here it comes. It's cringy. See y'all next year right here on Locked On Aggies.